And we're live now. Good evening, everyone. Good evening from a wet and chilly Adelaide. It's a beautiful time of the year here. We get all our rain. The earth is coming alive with the green and the freshness that lasts us through the year. And good to see you. Good to see you, Tim. Hello.
Hello, Tim.
And we'll just wait a few minutes, give people a chance to come on board. Good evening, John. How are you going?
G'day, David. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm very well. Good evening, Trish. Good to see you here.
Hey, Trish.
So if you're listening in, please say a hello in the chat box so that we know that you can hear us and that you're ready for tonight's session. So, and good evening, Max. Greetings to you as well. Yes,
Max Killer. Yes. Yep.
on this
Indeed.
special NAIDOC week. Great to see you here. Okay, so we're up to the third episode in this series of the Fires of the Ancestors are Burning. And this episode tonight is called Alienation. And just before we get going, to give others a chance to jump in and say hello, there is a little bit of an exercise for home this week. And that will come to you as a link later on in the program. I'll put a link in the chat box, and there's a one question there that you can answer online, and the answers will come back to us. So we're experimenting with our technology and looking to see that we can, have more interaction with you, and so we're interested to see how that works. Um, Thanks for your emails this week again, everyone who has corresponded with us. I'm overwhelmed by it, to tell you the truth. How much response there is to the program, and John and I got together earlier in the week, and it sort of really stimulates our creative juices in looking how we can better get the story out in a way that might be even more useful to you. So please feel free to contact us in any way. The emails are very good. We appreciate it. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging the ancestors of this great land, of the custodians of country here in Adelaide, first of all, where we're broadcasting from, the Kaurna people, and also those neighbouring peoples who are very active and promoting and maintaining culture here in Adelaide, and then further out in other places across Australia. And from one side to another, this has always been country belonging to First Nations peoples who have maintained the stories, the spirit, the knowledge of 1,000 generations or more that we, are doing all that we can to help see that is available to future generations, both now and in the future. So, John, I'll just get you to adjust your microphone a little bit. We're just getting a little bit of noise on your mic, and that seems good.
How's that?
Just
Okay.
say hello. That's
Hello.
good. Yeah. So, John, I'll pass it over to you and let you kick off this evening's program.
Oh, Yalada Jawangara. Welcome to all our friends and relations out there. To those of you who are online now, Max, Trish, Tim. Thank you again for joining with us. We're now coming into the third storyboard presentation entitled Alienation. So I will attempt to give it a bit of a narrative as usual as we hold it up, and I'll see you on the outside or the other side of the story. So thank you all once again. As David mentioned, is very much appreciated, and we're very honoured with your participation and all your emails and your contribution that thus far. So thank you very much. So we're seeing, hello Felicity, good to see you online.
Hi Felicity, great to see you.
So people should be seeing the storyboard 3, Alienation. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah, it's up there now.
Okay. So I'm just going to launch into it. Born into this time of resistance, oppressed and confined to boxes neatly lined, force-fed values and beliefs not of our ancestors choosing, the you will be me at all cost equality mentality, in the name of God and King with assumed authority, a plan and ideology, reducing land to commodity, they stole control of a way of life. Forever now exiled to the fringes of well-intentioned thought, out of sight, out of mind, the not quite like, the almost died, the backward, the unholy, the uncivilized. Military force need not be a constant once the mind is colonized and our thoughts programmed to react within the colonizing construct. The need for direct armed military enforcement becomes less so, but the threat, the fear, is no less diminished. As special measures, patriotism, them and us divides, evidence-based hypotheses and doomsday prophecies immobilize. Seduced into believing, we dare not speak, we dare not think, we dare not look too long. As long as the colonizing powers deceitfully and forcefully maintain their assumption and perception of authority, and as long as we continue to allow the colonizing authority to frame their lies and rationalizations within the construct of the colonizing values, so will the subjugation of Earth people continue. So too will our ancestors' country be eaten away, under the guise of private ownership and vested interest, neatly packaged, hidden in the ambiguity of national interests, democracy, security, and real economies. The invasion story is not Columbus, Cook, the British, Dutch, French, Spanish, or a coalition of the willing. Invasion is a choice, a mindset, a value system set to maximize a quickly spread dis-ease, tried and tested on the already colonized and already brutalized. Acting with erased memories, how can they see the people? Remember, friend, the first casualty is always memory. But tell me, friend, how does your uncivilized become civilized? And who are they that wash the blood-soaked hands of those who sing aloud the songs of death and celebrate the theft of memory? Earth people did not create the ladder of success. We did not begin the march of progress. We did not determine the scale of humanity. Earth culture is a way of life. We are a people with a way of life. We are not the primitive, nomadic, traditional, urban, full-blood, half-caste, quarter-caste, 1/8 yellow fella, quadroon, backward, or heathen. We are a people with a way of life. 200 years still we are treading water. Resistance is a conscious choice, articulating clearly those values and practices of our ancestors that from the beginning maintained our people with Mother Earth for the mutual benefit of all life. We are the alternative power. Love your people, love your country. Do not forget our ancient mother cries, black, red, yellow, white, innocent until colonized. One afternoon, while getting ready for another terror-filled night, they heard someone calling out, Bama yura wangadi dungai, ngayokunu. It was Gubidi. He had returned and was standing high up on the mountain, calling to the people to come up and join him. I am stronger than Wurumbu and will protect you. The shy little gada, the bush wallaby, crept up close and stood at the feet of Gubidi. Guriella, the carpet snake, went up. Jambano, the kangaroo, Guranji, the cassowary, Ngangan, the ekinda, Walga, the goanna, and Bagamo, the pigeon, all went up and stood beside Gubidi. The people watched and talked amongst themselves. Some said they would go, but were told not to because of the lateness of the day. Eventually it was dark, and no one had gone to stand by Gubidi. Today we are informed that one of the grim lessons social scientists have learned from the history of colonization or colonialism is that to destroy a society we do not need to kill off all its members. The destruction can be achieved through the devaluation of society's social and cultural institutions through which social life is sustained and reproduced. This devaluation of social institution produces anomie, hopelessness, despair, and depression, which condemns its members to a gradual and slow death. If we can imagine the impacts and effects that violence has in just one family, try now to imagine the impact and effects of colonial violence on whole nations of people. We see the storyboard in front of us, and from the top center of the board we see a figure with a bottle and a yellow dot representing loss of spirit. We see the fire in the center now burns low, and the broken lines representing the disconnection from homelands, culture, family, and the safety of the fire. And also you will notice there are no longer any elders standing there holding the fire together. From the top of the storyboard going down the right-hand side, we see family arguing, and following the figures downwards represents the kidnapping and institutionalization of young children. The bottom center figures represent the passing of elders and incidences of suicide. Walking up the left-hand side of the board, we see a high incidence of drug-related deaths. And traveling further up, the next figure expresses separation from family, culture, and country. The outside small white dots represent the incarceration of First Peoples and those of our people who are feeling disconnected, alienated, and not belonging. The bigger white dots with colored centers and broken lines leading to them, representing grief, disconnection, and despair. Today we see as a direct result of invasion, loss of identity, powerlessness due to transitional stress, in limbo, or the state of anomie, unprepared, mixture of beliefs, cultural, social breakdown, identity confusion, acting out, grief, post-traumatic stress disorders, dependencies. Communities epitomize social problems such as alcoholism, drug addiction, family violence, etc. Low economic circumstances and poor Western education. Suicide was unknown to Aboriginal people prior to invasion. Summarising current research, appalling living conditions and past traumas have led to suicide rates that by far exceed that of non-Aboriginal people. And we're talking in the here and now too, by the way. 95% of First Peoples in Australia are affected by suicide. 95%. Many of them are born into families where grief from outside already exists. sometimes across 2, 3, or more generations. Suicide among First People youth are the world's highest. In fact, the rate is higher than every country in the world except for Greenland. First Peoples are massively overrepresented in the criminal justice system across Australia. First Peoples in 1788 were 100% of the population. Today we represent approximately 3% of the total population. The term mass incarceration is used to characterize the imprisonment of African American people in the United States. But incarceration of First People across the landmass now known as Australia are 20 times higher than that. It is estimated that pre-1788 there were 250 plus distinct languages spoken throughout the landmass. Many of the languages had several dialects, so that the total number of language inclusive of dialects is estimated to have been around 6 to several hundred. From 1788, First Peoples languages began to decline. Recent studies in Australia indicate 160 languages are extinct, 70 are under threat, and only 20 are likely to survive. This equates approximately and roughly one full language per year since 1788 is being lost. And of course, we all recognize and realize the loss of a language is a loss of a whole body of knowledge. It's a loss of a whole library of knowledge that has been handed down from the first sunrise. According to Wildlife Australia, most of wildlife across this continent is found nowhere else in the world. 87% of mammal species, 93% of reptiles, 94% of frogs, and 45% of bird species are found only in this country. Australia has the worst mammal extinction rate in the world. 30 known mammals have become extinct since invasion. 1 out of 3 mammal extinctions in the last 400 years have occurred in Australia. More than 1,700 species of animals and plants are currently listed by government agencies as being at risk of extinction. The ever-increasing population of waterways, pollution of waterways along with plastics is having the same disastrous impacts and effects upon the waterways and sea animals and water environments. With the coming of British imperialist forces in 1788, there became 2 sides. One side respected the land, one side exploited the land. One side was basically peaceful and kind, the other was essentially sadistic and oppressive. One sought harmony, the other was driven by aggression and competitiveness. And I leave that for others to decide which side was which. This presentation is not about making excuses or leveling blame, but rather it is about naming both cause and sickness so that we can begin to take personal responsibility for our own acts, so that we can better address the unfinished business of this country that makes for a better future for our Mother Earth, our children, all people and coming generations. If we look at the pre 1788, and we spoke initially about the incidence of infant mortalities of 50%, the incidence of alcohol, drug abuse, of violence, we now see that the same repetitive cycle or spiraling down of violence is now being enacted out across Aboriginal Australia, or First Peoples Australia, which is an interesting idea. But that concludes that storyboard for the moment. David?
Thanks, John. Now we have a question here, or first of all, just let's make an opportunity for anyone to respond any way you might like to the artwork, um, to the presentation, and then we'll have a look at our chart that we started in earlier sessions, and we're going to add to that today. So I'll just give a moment so that knowing that there's a time delay for people to respond to that. So let's see. I'll just bring up that that chart, and we're going to use that again tonight, aren't we, John? That's right, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. The box chart.
The box chart,
yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
This one.
Yes. Okay.
So we should be seeing that now.
That's that piece is one of mine. Trish. Trish is asking about who wrote the spoken word. Yeah. It's entitled "Innocent Until Colonized." It's one of mine. I've done some years ago. Thank you for asking.
So the question, John, people can jump in at any time, as we know.
Sure. We have a question tonight. When we look back to the first storyboards and pre-colonization, and we asked people to jot down their own thoughts in a word about how they would perceive or think of Aboriginal society pre 1788, based, of course, on my presentation of the boards. We had answers range from harmonious, interconnected, grounded, responsible, complex, learned by doing, spiritual. And I know Trish wrote some today that I just don't have. I have. Okay, and then we asked about our second storyboards, White Clouds Upon the Water. We looked at policies, and those policies that were raised were assimilation, taking children, segregation, protectors, punishment for speaking languages, missions, unhealthy diet, slave labor, no voting, enforced work, extermination, alienation, dispersal, apartheid, and Trish sent us an email this week, taking land, destroying culture, humiliation, dehumanization, destructive of history, country, disrespect, unaccepted as equals. We then asked, coming from this harmonious, interconnected, grounded, responsible, complex society, coming forward 100 years, 200 years post 1788 to having policies, brutally enforced or imposed upon First Peoples, which we see under occupation and colonisation. It's quite, I'm sure I'll leave that for you to read there. We asked, looking at how would or does that make you feel? And the answers of that was hopeless, shattered, betrayed, confused, angry, traumatized, suicidal, lost, violated, disconnected, and golf. And Trish has got lost, stressed, anxious, impacts. Lost, stressed, and anxious. So the question in a word this week in one word, how would you describe that effect upon Aboriginal people? How would you, in a word, summarise what was done to Aboriginal peoples and culture? So that's the question we're looking for on the impacts on Aboriginal society. If you look at what we have there so far, coming pre-colonisation, coming forward to post-1788, how would you describe, in a word, the effect of all those policies upon Aboriginal peoples?
So if you'd like to put that word in the chat box, destruction. Thanks, Trish. I'll start to put them up into the form here.
Yeah. Thank you.
For this evening. It's appearing. Thanks, Trish. Annihilation. Appearing destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true, Max. I'm just reading Max's tsunami of disaster. Exactly, a tsunami. Yeah, and there's often no coming back from a tsunami, as we know in recent experiences. Thank you, Tony, and thank you those who have commented on the spoken word. Thank you very much. Annihilation, yeah. Yes, yeah. And you know, depressed. You know, when you destroy a people's way of life, where you take, extinguish their languages, it has a very real impact culturally, but also for all the generations of First Peoples that follow, oppressed. And my word, and I, dismantled, is that I look at is genocide. And whilst some people argue, because well, actually, I don't use the word genocide. I use it in polite presentations, but it is in genocide meets certain requirements of the international community, and by all intents and purposes, certainly that which has been enacted upon First People in this country was indeed genocidal acts. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, James. Yeah. Okay. So.
Thanks for your responses, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. That's we have there, and of course, destruction, disappearing, annihilation, depressed, oppressed, dismantled, disenfranchising, disintegration, devastation, and genocide. Yeah. Massacred. Yeah. Sure. Again, I'm not going to go too much into this methodology, but I imagine most of you will see where it's sort of heading. But thank you for that input. And the Felicity, it's been openly documented in history that the policies developed were aimed, yes, cultures. So genocide is very apt term. Yeah, thank you, Felicity. That was a lot of the, the early taking away and kidnapping of children, and to force them into away from their family, away from their languages groups, away from their country, away from their ceremonial practices and their elders.
And the fact, John, that it was, sorry,
the
it was done systematically. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I think we've got a bit of lag online here, but
yeah,
it's nothing accidental about it. It's systematically engineered that way um, to change to make that culture, the previous culture, diminish and disappear.
yeah.
So,
And hence we have the the dying pillow and all these other terms to describe, in fact, what it was. And particularly if you look at the history, I think in Tasmania, I think it's more poignant there because of the size of the landmass of Tasmania. And it was very quite clear, and the language of the time, in fact, was about the extermination, and that was based on the people saying an inexorable law of survival of the fittest, and that Aboriginal people were not seen as human beings; they were seen as somewhat lesser than, and really exterminating them was no more than exterminating bugs or mosquitoes and the such. And I remember in the very first opening of this presentation, we handed out the observations of William Dampier in the 1600s about the hominids and the so forth, and the being no better than the beast and such, and being not faring too well on the scale of humanity. So stereotypes, preconceptions were already paving the way for when imperialist forces came to be lesser than human. And let us not forget, there had already been plenty of practice through the Americas and such, unfortunately. Yeah. And so does anyone have any that really I'm going to finish again with another spoken piece, but I think, David, you're going to put up the question that needs to be.
That's right. So there's a second question that we invite you to consider during the week, or now, or during the week. And just in a sec, I'm going to organise my mouse and put that up there. Here we go. So this is what it looks like. So this is for this week. Complete the question following the third episode of The Ancestors' Fires Are Burning, Alienation. The question is, during the week, in one or two sentences, outline your vision of a future Australian society in relation to First Peoples. And so you'll see in the link, let me just grab that link and put that in the chat box. Okay, that's the link to this that you're seeing on the screen now. So I'll put just a memory trigger there with the storyboard for today called Alienation. And if you would like to, in one word, I should have put one word there. No, sorry, not one word. No, 2 or 3 sentences.
Yeah, very hard to have a vision.
That's right.
So,
Very concise.
so, um, so yeah, we're asking there to how you would, in order for as a nation, as peoples collectively, to address this unfinished business. What is your future vision for this country? Yeah, and particularly in relation to Aboriginal or First Peoples. So how would you
So if
see
you'd
your
like to,
country?
if you'd like to click on that link just to check that it's working, someone, and if you'd reply in the chat box that yes, the link is working, I'd appreciate that. I will send it out on the email, so you'll get that if you've registered. You'll get an email through the week with that link again. But you could just test it here. Thank you for listening, and bookmark it. And at some stage before next week, I'll collate the answers. Thanks, Trish. So that we can add that to our form as well. So Max is saying, and yet it seems extraordinary that so many Aboriginal people and organisations are reclaiming, resisting and forcing us all to become more aware of our Black history. Yes.
Yeah.
That tide is rising. There's two things that are happening. As I see it, there's this sort of really parching. It's like Australia. The history of the deep history of the First Peoples is under constant pressure. But at the same time, there will be an opposing force that people will ask questions, the more pressure that's put on that. And yes, totally agree with you there, Max. And it's not just organisations. I think within ourselves, there's a questioning, there's a wanting to know, there's a sense of, there's more to it than us as Europeans arriving 200 years ago. And it is through awareness and being mindful of our broader community that it's natural that we're going to be asking those questions and some explanations, and it's going to take us to some places that we haven't been to before, because that rainbow serpent, that Guriella, that wannabe, that whichever name we want to use by, depending on which country you're from, is not just a dreaming ancestor that belongs somewhere in the past. It is the present day vital energy, the life force that keeps this country alive, with plants and animals and peoples and forests and rainfall and everything there is. That to deny that something exists doesn't prevent it from existing, but rather it makes us wonder and curious about that deeper story. So yes.
Yeah, and for I think T-Max, as you would perhaps be aware, for grief to trauma to be resolved, then we must talk truthfully and openly, and we have to name the illness. We have to name the sickness, so we have to give it a name. For many years, our people didn't have a name for it. It's only been in the last 20, 30 years. Well, no, it's longer than that, actually. I'm making myself younger than I am. But let's 100 years maybe, and as you rightly point out, those people who continue to raise their voice, but to name the illness, the post-traumatic stresses, the grief, the trauma, and putting names to these things, and the impacts of direct impacts and effects that stem directly from invasion and processes of colonization. And so it's really important that, and we won't do that unless we're sitting down, talking with each other and discussing it, without blame, and things like that, and with a responsibility towards the future generations of all people in this country, and indeed to the country itself. Timothy is saying spirit on the rise versus yes. I think that's well, I think it's most probably coming out, Tim, and our spiritual natures and our relationship to countries and things like that, and of course we all hold those things, and I think they're becoming, as you suggest, much more evident today, which is a good thing, because we'll certainly need that strength. Yes, songlines, yeah, excellent. Yeah, well, I mean, again, it's about how those songlines all connect up, and they actually stole the idea from our documentary, Max. Joking, of course. They didn't need to steal anything. Yeah, but interesting how you look at that. Yeah, for sure. And can I just say thank you all again, and I'll be seeing those North Coast fellas sometime in late September. So Tim and Max, perhaps you will be around at that time, and we can catch up and have a cup of tea whilst I'm up around Lismore way. But if there's no further input, I might finish off. David, if you could put the board up again, and of course for your finishing comments, and anyone else's finishing comments, and well, I hope people can tune in next week. I think we're on next week. I know David has to travel up into the desert, right. Western desert areas for sorry business. So are we on next week or not, David?
Yes, we are, John.
Right.
We'll have next week, but I need to be up in the lands in around the 27th of this month. So that's a couple of weeks away yet, but we are looking at a 6-part series, and the 6th one will be postponed for a week until I get back, which will be a sort of a discussion, more of a discussion, and it's probably a good thing for to leave a little bit of time after the formal part in the first 4 or 5 sessions. Then we can come back and have another look.
Yeah.
For a general discussion, that one.
Yeah, and thank you, Max. Thank you. Yes, I mean, this is quite a lot of stuff, and it's a lot to digest and take in. we realise that some of it's hard. And again, we extend. Should anyone like to send us an email, or if you feel a little bit upset or annoyed by the presentation, please feel free to contact David or myself, and we're more than happy to have a yarn via the email, or in fact you could ring us, and we can have a yarn about things. Thank you very much for your patience. I have seen boards in group settings. That's yes, that's right, Carol. Yeah, that's right. I mean, the boards originally were for presentations for Aboriginal peoples. So the presentation in mixed groups really is relatively new. But I'm happy that it's moving. It's sort of the circle's sort of rippling outwards. And yeah.
Thanks,
can we get
John.
a PDF version on the storyboards? It can be difficult seeing the details. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Felicity. I'll organise that. So there's one more, and it actually hadn't occurred to me. So thanks for your comment there. But I know, depending on your bandwidth, that could be coming through quite fuzzy. So I'll work out the best way to make that available. I know that some people are picking up the program not through registering, so I haven't quite worked out the best way to contact everyone yet. Everyone here in the chat list, it's easy to contact you, and we'll certainly keep you up to date. And I'm also looking at ways of people who are coming in at a later time or finding it on YouTube and don't have the benefit of the chat to contact us. So thanks.
And Carol was just saying about the in the workshops to getting people just sitting on floor or grounding ourselves on the floor is always a very interesting aspect of the storyboard presentations. And we use the ground, the floor, the earth to sit on, and we use a circle. Of course, two strong elements within the presentation. But David, and thank yous all again. And David, could you put up the board again so I'm off screen, please? And I'll sign off.
I will do that.
I'll sign off.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, and look forward to seeing everyone next week for our fourth storyboards entitled Celebration.
Thanks, John. Thanks once again. And thank you, everyone. Great to have you on board. It's very encouraging for us who to have you with us, and really grateful that we're able to provide something that you find of value. So we'll finish up. I'll put the boards up. John's has another spoken word piece that we'll finish on, and following that, before we cut off the broadcast, I will put on a song that I've been a little bit reluctant to. We had started at the beginning, but just to tell you what's happened, for some reason, the software seemed to be a little bit unstable. So rather than cause any break at the beginning, we'll play that at the end. So there'll be a song called "Poison in the Water."
Is it, or for those who would forget, which one?
I think I have "Poisoning the Water." I have both, John.
Okay, so the one you started with was "For Those Who Would Forget."
Again, that's right. So
Yeah.
it's poisoning the water that has the vision to it tonight. So I'll finish with that one. So good night, everyone, and I'll put the boards up and pass it over to you once again, John. And here we are.
We are of the earth, body and spirit. What touches Mother Earth touches me, touches you, or have you lost the memory? For far too long you've hidden behind God, behind justice, behind human rights, behind civil rights, behind democracy, morality, and assumed authority. For far too long you have hid behind might is right, left and right, victor, vanquish, oppressor, and oppressed. Your freedoms and equalities, the crucified and the saved, the insane and the sane, logic, reason, and statistical hypocrisy. But now you must be responsible for the harvest you alone have shown. Hear me, friend, my song for you. Belief is the sorceress' strongest tool. Belief is the lie that alienates. We are of the earth, body and spirit. What touches Mother Earth touches me, touches you, or have you lost the memory? Right now, we must demand the truth from ourselves and purge all lies internalized. To maintain who we are in the face of progress has become a crime. So let's be clear, the crime is in the fact that we need to resist it all, not in the resisting. The people of progress rip deep into the heart of Mother Earth, gouging deeply, poisoning, polluting, exterminating, praising, and protecting at all costs their assumed right to plunder and condemn the coming generations, whilst all the time calling us the savages, the dysfunctional, the irresponsible, the lesser than, the lesser than. From time immemorial, before the sickness came, our country was pristine and the future of our children was assured. Oppression births oppression births oppression. Dysfunction is an expression of oppression. From where did this oppression spring? Hold on, my brother. Be strong, my sister. Let us not forget from where we come. We are of the earth, body and spirit. What touches Mother Earth touches me, touches you, or have you lost the memory? Tell me what you know, my friend, not what you believe. Demonize, Christianize, and democratize the unholy trinity. The Saviour's bell, it has been rung, and the cross they nail is all but done. Our struggle becomes your struggle only when you remember. We are of the earth, body and spirit. What touches Mother Earth touches me, touches you, or have you lost the memory? When we no longer lie to ourselves, change will come. Until then, do not see me as the lesser one.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone.
Creator winds his way, Judamali coming. The earth it turns on a delicate hand. Ancient fires are burning. Deep below our story lives. Deep below our mother's skin. We sing our words and dance our land, while your justice hides in greasy hands. Battle lines and yellow cake shrines condemned our sons and daughters. Bring along and quench the thirst. It's poison in the water. Nothing here to wear but a shade. They call our home the wasteland. Keep it low and ocean runs. Sing up and dance our Lord, while your justice hides behind white doors. It is Oh, I know she laughed. South Carolina. That lies in yellow cake shrines. Left our sons and daughters. Dream long and quench your thirst. Poison in the water. Poison in the water. Poison in the water. Poison in the water.